Haha, haha. Okay. Playing around a little bit in Streamlabs. For those who are already here, can everyone hear and see me? I hope it isn't lagging. I think I am visible in Streamlabs, so should be doing fine. Okay, let's see what is up for people. Okay. Good to see you. Hey, Gamma. Good to see you as well. Welcome to stream. There's an echo, by the way. There's an echo? That's weird. Maybe if I... That's odd. Maybe if I play around here a little bit. Didn't think I would have an echo. Is this a little better? Echo and echo. You guys are hearing me twice. Figure out where it comes from. Much better? Oh, okay, then it was a Scarlet who did it. I have been playing around with the buttons on it, so it could be that it's all mixed up at the moment. But I'm happy to hear that it's a little... that it's better. How is everyone doing? It's been a while since I narrated. I think a month, maybe 2. I also have the book right here with me for the people who like to see. We have quite a reflection. I'm going to turn that away. Can we see the book without it being too much? So this is the book that I bought this weekend. This is what we're going to be narrating out of, which is the full collection of Edgar Allan Poe. Oh, let's see. Yo, good so far. Hey, sis, welcome! Webcam is a bit laggy. Yeah. Oh. I've been trying my best. I'm currently using the webcam from my laptop because I couldn't get the Logitech webcam to work. For some reason it did track my face for VTube Studio, but it didn't want to turn on for Streamlabs. I don't know what's up with that. That's a huge book. It is a huge book, yeah. It's he's very thick. I have a second one of these with just Lovecraft stories, which is on my bookshelf, and I'm getting the third one of the series with all the Shakespeare stories, which has a similar cover like this one. I think it's beautiful. It's a bit of a collector's edition. It's very pretty, and the moment I see a pretty book, my bird vision goes up. It's like, yes, this one, I'm taking you home. Lady K, hello everyone. Hi, welcome. Good to see you. Nvidia, then it might be used in the background by another program. Oh, okay. then we might have to look into that. I have no idea how to turn that off. If it's using VTube Studio in the background, then I might have to turn that off somehow, and so I can be able to use it here, but this is all I can do for now. It's not the best, but it's working. I hope it's not going to be lagging more throughout the stream. Otherwise, I can see if I can edit it. Custom. Range full format. Highest frame per second. And then it's doing that. For the people who are here for the first time, streams are always this chaotic. So this is absolutely not new. But that's fine. I hope this works. I put up the frames per second. Maybe that will work with how well it will do with less lag. I think there's a way to check if a program is using camera, mic, etc. Okay, I'm lurking. That's fine. I mean, you didn't have to say what specifically you were doing. Oh God, the audio is double. Shit. The echo is back. Echo is back? How is it doing that? And I'm also listening to stories from your channel. Yeah. I don't upload a lot of videos at the moment, so I try my best. Maybe if I turn down the video capture device. Does it work? Did it work? I turned down the volume of the video capturing device because it said it's also using audio aside from my microphone. Is that working? Maybe because of that the echo is now gone. Oh hey, Psychosis! Happy to have you here in the stream. Let me know, guys, if this resolved the problem of the echo. Because it would be really dumb if I'm still giving feedback with my mic. Yeah, that's better. Hooray! Hooray! Okay, then I'm grabbing the story. I'm already looked it up, so we don't have to waste time on that. I'm grabbing the wrong mouse. This narrating, I am still very big. Yeah. Almost. Yeah, it fits. And if it fits, it sits. You know, this thing is very heavy actually, so I'm a little scared to see if I can hold it that long. Because it's not like Dracula. But just so you guys know, if I'm going to be streaming cosplay, I will be holding a physical book, because that just makes it a lot more fun to me. Okay, so most of the votes went to a descent into the Maelstrom. So that's the story that we're going to be narrating today. Yes, that's better. Nice, no echo. Okay, great. Then that problem is out of the way. The ways of God in nature, as in providence, are not as our ways, nor are the models what we frame in any way circuses to the vastness, provinciality, and unsearchableness of his works, which have a depth in the greater than the well of Democritus. We had now reached a summit of the loftiest crag. For some minutes the old man seemed too much exhausted to speak. "Not long ago," said he at length, "and I could have guided you on this route, as well as the youngest of my sons. But about 3 years past, there happened to me an event such as never happened before to mortal man, or at least such as no man ever survived to tell of. And the 6 hours of deadly terror which I then endured have broken me up, body and soul. You suppose me a very old man, but I'm not. I took less than a single day to change these hairs from a jetty black to white, to weaken my limbs, and to unstring my nerves, so that I tremble at the least exertion, and I'm frightened at a shadow. Do you know, I can scarcely look over this little cliff without getting giddy. The little cliff upon whose edge he had so carelessly thrown himself down. To the rest, a weightier portion of his body hung over it, while he was only kept from falling by the tenure of his elbow and its extreme and slippery edge. This little cliff arose, a sheer, unobscured precipice of black shining rock, some 15 or 1600 feet from the world of crags beneath us. Nothing would have tempted me to be within half-dozen yards of its brink. In truth, so deeply was I excited by the perilous position of my companion that I fell at full length upon the ground, clung to the shrubs around me, and dared not even glance upon the sky, while I struggled in vain to dive myself into the idea that the foundations of the mountain were in danger from fury of the winds. It was long before I could reason myself into sufficient courage to sit up and look out into the distance. "You must get over these fancies," said the guide, "for I have brought you here, that you might have been best possible view of the scene, that event I mentioned, and to tell you the whole story with the spot just under your eye. We are now," he continued, in a particularizing manner which distinguished him, "we are now close upon the Norwegian coast, in a 68 degree of latitude, in a great province of Nordland, and there's the district of Lofedon, the mountain which upon whose top we sit is heavy. So, and look out, beyond the belt of vapor beneath us, into the sea." I looked dazedly, and beheld a wide expanse of ocean, whose waters wore inky and hue, as to bring at once to mind a Nubian geographer's account of the mare Tenebrium, the panorama more deplorably desolate, no human imagination can conceive. To the right and left, as far as the eye could reach, there lay outstretched, like ramparts of the world, a line and wholly black and beetling cliff, whose character of gloom was more forcibly illustrated by the surf which reared high up against its white and ghastly crest, howling and shrieking forever, just opposite of the promontory upon whose apex we were placed, and at a distance of some 5 or 6 miles out at sea, we were visible a small bleak-looking island, or, more probably, its position was discernible through the wildness and surge which it enveloped. About 2 miles nearer the land arose another of small size, hideous, craggy, off-lay to under the double reefed trailand, and constantly plucked her whole hull out of sight. Still was there nothing like regular swell, and only a short, quick, angry cross dashing of water in every direction, as well in the teeth of the wind, and otherwise of foam the little aspect and immediate dignity of the rocks. The island in the distance, resumed the old man, is called by the Norwegian Vurg. In the midway of Moscow, and a mile of northward, is Abaran. Yonder are Aslan, Hot Hom, Kaidlem, Survenen, and Buckholm. Further off, between Moscow and Vurg, are Otterholm, Flimmen, Sandflessen, and Stockholm. These are the true names of the places, but why it has been thought unnecessary to name them at all is more than either you and I can understand. Do you hear anything? Do you see anything change in the water? We had now been about 10 minutes upon the top of Hellsegger, to which we had ascended from the interior of Lofoden. To that we cast no glimpse of the sea, until it had burst upon us on the summit. As the old man spoke, I became aware of the loud and gradually increasing sound, like a moaning of a vast herd of buffaloes upon the American prairie, and at the same moment I perceived what seamen term of the chopping character of the ocean beneath us was rapidly changing into the current which set eastward. Even while I gazed, this current acquired monstrous velocity. Each moment added to its speed, and its headlong impetuosity. In 5 minutes the whole sea, as far as Vurg, was leashed into an ungovernable fury. I'm switching arms. Oof. But it was between Moscow and the coast that the main uproar held its sway. It was bed of waters seemed to scattered into 1,000 conflicting channels, burst suddenly into frenzied convulsion, heaving, boiling, hissing, gyrating in gigantic innumerable vorticles, and all whirling and plunging into the eastward with a rapidity which water never elsewhere assumes, except in perception's descents. In a few minutes more there came over the scene another radical alteration. The general surface grew somewhat more smooth, and all the whirlpools, one by one, disappeared, while prodigious streaks of foam became apparent when none had been seen before. These streaks at length spreading out to the distance, and entering into combination, took unto themselves the gyratory motion of the subdilated verticals, and seemed to form the germ of another more vast. Suddenly, very suddenly, this assumed a distinct and defined existence, in a circle of more than a mile in diameter. The edge of the whirl was represented by the bold bell gleaming spray, but no particle of it slipped into the mouth of the terrific funnel, whose interior, as far as the eye could fathom it. Hello, neighbor. Glad that you're home too. Where was I? As the eye could fathom it, was smooth, shining, and jet black wall of water, inclined to the horizon at the angle, and some 45 degrees, speeding, dizzying, round and round with swaying and sweltering motion, and sending forth the winds an appalling voice, half shriek, half roar, such as not even a mighty conqueror of Nigeria even lifts up in its agony to heaven. The mountain trembled to its very base, and the rock roared. I threw myself upon my face, and clung the shant haberge, an excess of nervous agitation. "This," said I at length to the old man, "this can be nothing else than the great whirlpool of Maelstrom." "So it sometimes turned," he said. "We Norwayans call it Moscow Strom, from the island of Moscow in the Midway." The ordinary accounts of the vortex had no means prepared me for what I saw, that of Jonas Ramus, which is perhaps the most circumstantial of any, cannot impact the faintest conception either of magnificence or of the horror of the scene, or of the wild bewildering sense of the novel which confounds the beholder. I am not sure from what point of view the writer in question surveyed it, nor at what time, but it could neither have been summit of Helsegger, nor during the storm. There are passages of the description, nevertheless, which may be quoted for the details, although the effect is exceedingly feeble, and conveying an impression of the spectacle. "Between Lofoten and Moscow," he said, "the depth of the water is between 36 and 40 fathoms, but the other side, towards Vurk, this depth decreases, so as not to afford the convenient passage of the vessel, without the risk of splitting onto the rocks, which happens even at the calmest weather. When it is a flood, the stream runs to the country between Lofoten and Moscow with boisterous rapidly, but the roar of its impetuous ebb to the sea is scarce, and quelled by the loudest and most dreadful cataracts, the noise being heard several leagues off, and the vortex or pits are such an extent of depth that if a ship comes with an attraction, it's inevitably absorbed and carried down to the bottom, and there beat to pieces against the rock. Where the water relaxes, the fragments thereof are thrown up again, but the intervals of the tranquility are only a turn of the ebb and flood, and calm weather, the last of quarter of an hour, its violence gradually returning, when the stream is most boisterous, its fury heightened by a storm. It's dangerous to come within a Norway mile of it. Boats, yachts, ships have been carried away by not guarding against it before. They were within its reach. It likewise happened frequently that whales come too near the stream and are overpowered by its violence. And then it is possible to describe the howlings and bowlings, the fruitless struggle to disencourage themselves. A bear once, attempting to swim from Lowton to Moscow, was caught by the stream and bore down, while he roared terribly, so as he hit on shore large stalks of first and pine trees, while being absorbed by the current, rise again, broken and torn to such degree as that bristles grew upon them. This plainly shows the bottom to consist of craggy rocks, among which they are whirled to and fro. The stream is regulated by the flux and reflux of the sea. It began constantly high and low water every 6 hours. In a year 1645, early in the morning of 6 Augustima, Sunday, it raged within such noise and impetuosity that the very stones of the houses and the coast fell to the ground. In regard to the depth of the water, I could not see how it could have been attenuated at all, an immediate vicinity to the vortex. The 40 phantoms must have reference to only portion of the channel, close upon the shore, either of Moscow of Lofton. The depth of the center of the Moscow Strom must be immeasurably greater, and no better proof of the fact is unnecessary. This can be obtained from the sidelong glance into the abyss of the world which may be had from the highest crag of Hesken, looking down from the pinnacle upon the howling Flageton below. I could not help smiling at the simplicity which the honest Jonas Ramus records as met the difficulty of belief, the anecdotes of the whales and the bears. For it appeared to me, in fact, a self-evident thing that the largest ships of the line in existence, coming within influence of the deadly attraction, could resist it a little, a feather of a hurricane. It must disappear bodily at once. The attempts of the account of the phenomenon, some of which I remember, seemed to me sufficiently possible a perusal. Now wore a very different and unsatisfactory. I know that word. Unsatisfactory aspect. Yes. The idea generally received at this, as well as the 3 smaller verticals among the Faroe Islands. Dep emoji, thanks YouTube. Hi Moschino, adios indeed. The audio's quiet. Oh, you can hear me, right? It's not like I've been narrating for, I don't know, that's not a watch, half an hour, and you guys haven't heard me. That would be absolutely embarrassing. But if the echo is gone, that'd be great. Hope you're all enjoying the narration if you can hear it. That'd be embarrassing if both were quiet now. Have no other cars than the collision of the waves rising and falling, as flux and reflux against the ridge of the rocks and shelves, which confines the water, so that it participates itself like the cataracts, and thus the higher the whirlpool of the vortex, the traditionally suction of which is sufficiently known by lesser experiments. These are the words of the Encyclopedia Britannica, Kichet, and other images that in the center of the channel of the Maelstrom is an abyss penetrating the globe and insinuating in some very remote part the Gulf of Bothnia, being somewhat decidedly named in one instance. This opinion, idle in itself, was the one to which I gazed my imagination most rapidly ascend, and mentions to its guide. I was rather surprised to hear him say that, although it was the view almost universally entertained of the subject by the Norwegians, it nevertheless was not my own. As the former notion, he confessed his inability to compress it, and I agreed with him. For, however conclusive on paper, it becomes altogether unintelligible and even absurd amidst the thunder of the abyss. You have had a good look in the world now, said the old man, and if you will creep round the crack, so as to get in its lee, the depth of the roar of the water, I will tell you a story that convince you I owe to know something of the Moscow Ström. I placed myself as desired, as he proceeded. Myself and my two brothers once owned a schooner-rigged smack of about 70 tons burden, with which we were in the habit of finishing among the islands beyond Moscow. Nearly to the Verk is in all violent eddies at the island. At the sea there was good fishing, at proper opportunities, if one has only the courage to attempt it. But among the whole of Lofoden coastmen, we were three, the only ones who made a regular business of going out to the islands. As I tell you, the usual grounds are the great way lower down to the southward. Their fish can be gotten at all hours, without much risk, and therefore a great place to prefer it. The choice spots over here among the rocks, however, not only yield the finest variety, but in far greater abundance, so that we got in one single day what more timid of the crafts could not scrape together in a week. In fact, we made it a matter of desperate speculation, the risk of life standing instead of labor, and courage answer for capital. We kept the smack in a cove, about 5 miles higher up the coast than this. It was our practice, in fine weather, to take advantage of the 15 minutes to push across the main channel of the Moscow Ström, far above the pool, and then drop down upon anchorage somewhere near Otterholm and Sandflessen, where the eddies are not so violent as elsewhere. Here we are used to remain until nearly time for slack water again. Pardon? We were weighted and made for home. We never set upon this expedition without a steady side wind, for going and coming, one that we felt sure would not fail us before our return, and we seldom made a miscalculation upon this point. Twice, during 6 years, we were forced to stay all night at anchor on account of a dead calm, which is a rare thing indeed. Just about here and once we had to remain on the grounds nearly a week, starving to death, owing to a gale which blew up shortly after our arrival and made the channel too boisterous to be thought of. Yes, we can hear you. Okay, that's good, that's good. William Warner, you sound really good and your invoice getting much better. Thank you, I'm glad to hear that. Also, welcome to the stream. I hope you enjoy the story. I'm reading a story by Edgar Allan Poe. Let's see, where was I? And made the channel too boisterous to be thought of. Upon the occasion, we should have been driven out to the sea, in spite of everything, for the whirlpools threw us around and round so violently that at length we thought our anchor had dragged it. If it had not been that we drifted into one of the innumerous cross currents, here to the day and gone to Marrow, which drove us under the lee of Flimen, where, by good luck, we brought up. I couldn't tell with you the 20th part of difficulties we incurred. Oh, the grounds. It was a bad spot to be in, even in good weather, but we made shift always to run the gauntlet of the Maelstrom itself, without accident, although at the times my heart was been in my mouth when we happened to be a minute or so behind or before the slack. The wind sometimes was not as strong as we thought it had started, and then we made rather less way than we could wish, while the current rendered the smack unimaginable. My eldest brother had a son 18 years ago, and I had 2 stout boys of my own. These would have been the great assistance at such times in using the sweeps as fell, as afterwards in fishing, but somehow, although we ran the risk ourselves, we had not the heart to let the young ones get into danger. For after all is said and done, it was a horrible danger, and this is the truth. It was within a few days, 3 years since I am going to tell you it occurred. It was on the 10th day of July 18th. That I'm reading incorrectly. It was on the 10th day of July 18th, a day of which people of the parts of the world will never forget. Still a weird phrase. For it was one of which blew the most terrible hurricane that ever came out of the heavens, and yet all in the morning, and indeed until the late afternoon, there was a gentle yet steady breeze from the southwest, while the sun shone brightly, so the oldest seamen among us could not have foreseen what was to follow. The 3 of us, my 2 brothers and myself, had crossed over to the lands about 2 o'clock, and had soon nearly loaded the smack with fine fish, which we all remarked were more plenty that day than we had known them. It was just 7 by my watch, and we waited and started for home, so as to make worse for the Strom as slack water, which we knew would be at 8. We set our fresh wind on a starboard quarter, and for some time spanked along the great raid, never dreaming of danger, for indeed we saw not slightest reason to apprehend it. All at once we were taken aback by a breeze over Helseggen. It was most unusual, something that I had never happened to feel before. And I began to feel a little uneasy, without exactly knowing why. We put the boat onto the wind. We could not make way, but could make no headway at all from the eddies, and I was upon the point of proposing to return to the anchorage, when looking astern, we saw the whole horizon covered with a singular copper-colored cloud, and arose with an amazing velocity. In the meantime, the breeze had headed off. It fell away, and we were headed becalmed, drifting about every direction. This state of things, however, did not last long enough to give us any time to think about it. In less than a minute the storm was upon us. In less than 2 the sky was entirely overcast, and what within us was driving spray. It became suddenly so dark that we could not see each other in a smack. Such the hurricane, as it blew with folly to attempts describing. The oldest seamen in Norway never experienced anything like this. We had let our sails go by and run before the clevity took us. But at the first puff, both our masts went by and boarded as if they had been sawed off. The mainmast, taking with it my youngest brother, who had leashed himself to the safety. Our boat was the lightest feather of the thing that ever sat upon the water. It had a complete flush deck, with only a small hatch near the bow, and as hatch it had always been accustomed to the batten down when it crossed the Strom, by the way of the precaution against the chopping seas, but for the circumstance when we should have profounded at once. For when lay entirely buried for some moments, how my elder brother escaped destruction I cannot say, for I never had an opportunity to ascan training. For my part, as soon as I let the foresail run, I threw myself flat on the deck, with my feet against the narrow gunwale of the bow, and with my hands grasping the ringboard near the foot of the foremast. It was mere instinct that prompted me to do this, which was undoubtedly the very best thing I could have done, for I was too much flurried to think. For some moments there was complete delunged, as I say, and all this time I held my breath and clung to the bolt. When I could stand it no longer, I raised myself upon my knees, still keeping hold with my hands, and thus got to held clear. Presently, our little boat gave herself a shake, just as a dog goes, and coming out of the water, and thus rid herself in some measure of the sea. It was now trying to get the better of the supper that it had come over me, and to collect my senses as to see what had been done, when I felt somebody grasp my arm. It was my elder brother, and my heart leaped of joy, for I had made sure that he was overboard. But the next moment, all of this joy turned into horror, for he put his mouth close to my ear and screamed out the words, "Moscow Strom." No one ever will know what my feelings were at the moment. I shook from head to toe, as I had the worst violent fit of ague. I knew what he meant by that word well enough. I knew what he wished to make me understand. With the wind that now drove us on, we were bound for the will of the strong, and nothing could save us. You perceived at the crossing of the Strom Channel, we always went a long way up above the will, with the calmest weather, and then had to wait and watch carefully for the slack. But now we were driven right upon the pool itself, and in a hurricane at this, to be sure, I thought, we shall get there, just about the slack. There is some little hope in that. But the next moment I crushed myself for being so great of a fool as to dream of hope at all. I knew very well that I was doomed. We were been 10 times the 19th gunship. And by this time the fury first of the tempted had spent itself, or perhaps we did not feel it so much as we scroted before. But the events at sea, which at first had been kept down by the wind and lay flat at the footing, now got up in absolute mountains, and singular change too had begun over the heavens, around in very direction. It was still pitch black, but nearly overhead it there burst out, all at once, a circular rift of clear sky, as clear as I ever saw. Bombastic side eye. No, I do not hate my neighbor. What are you talking about? He's just noisy. And an absolute show-off. But nearly overhead there burst out, all at once, a circular rift of clear sky, as clear as I ever saw, and a deep bright blue. And I thought it was blazed forth by the full moon, with a lustre that I could never before knew how to wear. She lit up everything about the greatest distinctness. But, oh God, what a scene it was to light up! I now made one of my 2 attempts to speak to my brother, but in some manner which I could not understand, the din had so increased that I could not make him hear a single word, although I screamed at the top of my voice in his ear. Precipitously, he shook his head, looking as pale as death, and held up one of his fingers, as if to say, "Listen." At first I could not make out what he meant, but soon a hideous thought flashed upon me. I dragged my watch from its fob. It was not going. I glanced at its face by the moonlight, and then burst into tears as I flung it away into the ocean. It had run down at 7 o'clock. We were behind the time of the snack, and the whirl of the Strom was in full fury. When the boat was well built, properly trimmed, and not deep laden, the waves of the strong gale, when she is going large, seem always to slip from beneath her, which appeared very strange to a landsman. And this was called riding, in the sea phrase. Well, so far as we have ridden the swells, very cleverly, but presently a gigantic sea happened to take us right under its counter and bore us within its rows, up and up, as if into the sky. I would not have believed that any wave would rise so high. And then down we came into the sweep, a slide and a plunge that made me feel sick and dizzy, as if I was falling some lofty mountaintop in a dream. But while we were up, I had thrown a quick glance around, and that once glance was all sufficient. I saw our exact position in an instant. The Maelstrom whirlpool was about a quarter of a mile dead ahead, but no more like an everyday Moscow storm than the world as we now see it. It's like a mile race. If I had not known where we were and what we had to be expected, I should not have recognized the place at all. As it was, I involuntarily closed my eyes in horror. The lids clenched themselves together as if in a spasm. I could not have been more than 2 minutes afterwards until we suddenly fell, the waves subside, and we are enveloped by foam. The boat made a sharp half-turn into the labor, and then shot off into the new direction like a thunderbolt. At a shrill shriek, such a sound as you might imagine given by one of the waste pipes of many thousand steam vessels letting off the stream together, we were now in the belt of the surf that always surrounds the world, and I thought, of course, that on a moment would plunge us into the abyss, down which we were only seen indistinctly, on account of amazing velocity which we were borne along. The boat did not seem to sink into the water at all, but a skim like air bubble upon the surface of surge. Her starboard side, which was next to the whirl. On the larboard arose the world of the ocean we had left. It stood like a huge, writing wall between us and the horizon. It may appear strange, but now, when we were in the very jaws of the gulf, I felt more composed than we were only approaching it, having made up my mind to hope no more. I got rid of the great deal of terror, which unmanned me at first. I suppose it was despair that strung my nerves. It may look a little boosting, but what I tell you is the truth. I began to reflect how magnificent the thing it was to die in such a manner, and how foolish it was to think of me to a palvestry of consideration as my own individual life, in view of such a wonderful manifestation of God's power. I do believe that I blushed with shame when this idea crossed my mind. After a little, while I became crossed with the keenest curiosity about the world itself, I positively felt a wish to explore its depths, even at a sacrifice I was going to make. My principal grief was that I should never be able to tell my own companions on shore about the mysteries I could see. These, no doubt, were singular fancies to occupy a man's mind in such extremity, and I have often thought since that the revolution of the boat around the pool night then rendered me like a little light-headed. There was another circumstance which tended to restore my self-possession, and this was sensation of the wind. which could not reach us in our present situation. For, as you saw yourself, the belt of surf is considerably lower than a general bed of ocean. And this latter now towered above us, a high black mountainous ridge. If you've never been at sea in a heavy gale, you have formed no idea of the confusion of minds occasioned by the wind and spray together. They blind, deafen, and strangle you, and take away all your powers of action or reflection. But we were now, in a great measure, rid of these annoyances, just as death commanded. Felons in prison are allowed pretty indulgences, forbidden them while they doomed us, yet uncertain. How often we made the circuit of the belt is impossible to say. We careered round and round for perhaps an hour, flying rather than floating, getting gradually more and more into the middle of the search, and then nearer and nearer into its horrible inner edge. All this time I had never let go of the ringbolt, my brother, at its stern holding onto the small empty water cask, which had been securely lashed onto the coop of the countess, and was the only thing on deck that had not been swept aboard when the gale first took us. As we approached the brink of the pit, he let go his hold upon this, and made for the ring, which from an agony of his terror, he endeavored to force my hands, as it was not large enough to afford us both a secure grasp. I never felt deeper grief than when I saw him attempt this act, although I never knew he had a man act when he did it, a raving maniac through sheer fright. I did not care. However, to contrast the point with him, I knew I could make no difference whether either of us held on to it at all, so I let him have the bolt, and went astern to the cask. That was one no great difficulty in doing, for the smack flew round steadily enough, and upon my even heel, only swaying to fro, with the immense sweeps of swelters of the whirl. Scarcely, as I secured myself in my new position, when we gave the whirl lurched a starboard, and rushed headlong into the abyss. I muttered and hurried prayer to God, and through all was over. As I felt my sinking sweep of the descent, I had instinctively tightened myself hold upon the barrel and closed my eyes. For some seconds I dared not to open them, when I expected instant destruction, and I wondered that I was not already in my death struggles within the water. For moment after moment elapsed. I lived. Our sense of falling had ceased, and the motion of the vessel seemed much as it had been before, while the belt of foam, with no exception, that she now lay along. I took courage and looked once again upon the scene. Never shall I forget the sensation, awe, horror, and admiration with which I gazed about me. The boat appeared to be hanging, as if by magic, midway down upon the interior surface of a funnel vast in circumference, prodigious in depth, and whose perfectly smooth sides might have been mistaken for ebony, for the bewilderingly rapidly with which they spun around, and full gleaming and ghastly radiance they shot forth, as the rays of the full moon from the circular rift amid the clouds, which I have been described, streamed in a flood of golden glory along the black walls. and far away, down in the utmost reference of the abyss. At first, I was too much confused to observe everything accurately. The general buzz of terrific grandeur was all I beheld. When I recovered myself a little, however, my gaze fell instinctively downward, and this direction I was able to observe the view from the manner in which I smack hung in the inclined surface of the pool. She was quite upon even a kneel. That is to say, her deck lay to plain parallel within the water. But this ladder sloped at the angle more than 45 degrees, so that we seemed to be laying upon the beam ends. I could not help observing, nevertheless, that I had scarcely more difficulty in maintaining my hold and footing in my situation than if we had been upon the dead level, and this, I suppose, was owing to the speed at which we revolved. The rays of the moon seemed to search at the very bottom of the profound gulf, but still I could not make out nothing distinctively of amount of the thick mist in which hung a magnificent rainbow, like the narrow, tottering bridge which Maelstrom say is the only pathway between time and eternity. This mist or spray was no doubt occasioned by the clashing of the great walls of the funnel, as they all met together at the bottom. But the yell that went up to the heavens from out of the mist, I dare not attempt to describe. Our first slide into the abyss itself, from the belt of foam above, was carried us a great distance down to the slope. But the farther descent was no means promitable. Round and round we swept, not with any uniform movement, but in dizziness, swaying and jerks that sent us sometimes only a few hundred yards, sometimes nearly the complete circuit from the whirl, only progress downward. Each revolution was slow but very precisable. Looking about me upon the wide waste of liquid ebony on which were this bone, I perceived that which boat was not the only object in the embrace of the whirl. Both above and below us were visible fragments of vessel, large masses of built timber and trunk trees, with smaller articles such as pieces of house furniture, broken boxes, barrels and staves. I have already described the unnatural curiosity which I had taken the place out of my original terrors. It appeared to grow upon me as I drew nearer and nearer to my dreadful doom. I now began to watch, with the strangest interest, the numerous things that float in our company. I must have been delirious, for I had sought amusement in the spectacularly upon relative velocities, for the several descents towards the foam below. This fir tree I found myself upon the time saying, which will certainly be the next thing that takes me, an awful plunge and disappears. And then I was disappointed to find that the wreck of the Dutch merchant ship overtook it and went down before. At first, after making several guesses of its nature, and being deceived in all, this fact, the fact of environmental miscalculation, set me upon a train of reflection that made my limbs again tremble, and my heart beat heavily once more. It was not a new terror that thus affected me, but the dawn of more exciting hope. This hope arose partly from my memory, and partly from my present observation. I called to mind the great variety of buoyant matter that threw the coast of Lofoden, having been absorbed and thrown by the Moscow storm. By far the greatest number of articles were shattered in the most extraordinary way, so chopped and rolled by as to have the appearance of the struck fall to splinters. But then I distinctively recollected that there were some of them which were not disfigured at all. Now I could not account for this difference, except for supposing that roughness fragments were the only ones that had been completely absorbed, that the others had entered the whirl at so late a period of the tide, or that reason had descended so slow after entering that they did not reach the bottom before turning as the flood came, or of ebb. At this case I conceived it possible in any instance, and they might thus be whirled up again to the level of the ocean without uncovering the fate of those which had been drawn the most eaten and absorbed more rapidly. I made, also, 3 important observations. The first was that a general rule, the larger the bodies were, the more rapid descent. The second, that between 2 masses of equal extent, the one spherical and the other of any other shape, the superiority in speed of descent was with the sphere. The third, that between 2 masses of equal size, the one cylinder and the one of any other shape, the cylinder was absorbed more slowly. Since my escape, I had been several conversations to the subject of an old schoolmaster of the district, and it was from him when I learned to use the words cylinder and sphere. He explained to me, although I have forgotten the explanation, how what I observed was, in fact, the nature consequence of the forms of the floating fragments, and showed me how it happened that the cylinder, swimming in a vortex, often more resistant to extinction, was drawn in with a greater difficulty than an equally bulky body of any form whatever. There was one startling circumstance which went a greater way of enforcing these observations, and rendering me anxious to turn them account, and this was that at any revolution we pass something like a barrel, or else the yards the mass of a vessel, while many of these things which had been on our level when I first opened my eyes upon wandering of the pool, went now high above us, and seemed to have more modified but a little form of the original situation. I no longer hesitated what to do. I resolved to lash myself securely to the water cask upon which I now held. I could loose from the counter, and threw myself with it into the water. I attracted my brother's attention by sights, pointed the floating barrels that came near us, and did everything in my power to make him understand what I was about to do. I thought at length that he comprehended my design, but whether this was the case or not, he shook his head despairingly, and refused to move from his station by the ringboard. It was impossible to reach him. The emergency admitted of no delay, and so with a bitter struggle I resigned him to his fate, fastened him by a cask, by means of lashing my whip secured to the counter, and precipitated myself with it into the sea without another moment's hesitation. The result was precisely what I had hoped it might be, as it is myself. Now to tell the tale. As you see, I did escape, and as you are already in positioning of the mode in which this escape was effected, I must the full article, all that I have further to say. I will bring my story quickly to conclusion. It might have been an hour, or thereabouts, after my quitting the smack, when having descended to the vast distance beneath me. It had 3 or 4 wild gyrations in rapid succession, and bearing my loved brother with it, plunging headlong at once and forever into the chaos of foam below. The barrel to which I was attracted sunk a very farther than a half a distance between the bottom and the gulf, and the spot which I leaped aboard before the great change took place in the quarter of the whirlpool. The slope of the sides of the vast funnel became momentarily less and less steep. The gyrations of the whirl grew, gradually less and less violent. By degrees, the fourth of the rainbow disappeared, and the bottom of the gulf seemed slowly to uprise. The sky was clear, and the winds had gone down, and the full moon was setting radiantly in the sky. When I found myself on the surface of the ocean, in full view of the shores of Lofoden, and above the spot which the pool of Moscow Strom had been, it was an hour of the slack, but the sea still heaved in the mountain waves from the effects of the hurricane. I was borne finally into the channel of the Strom, and in a few minutes was hurried down into the coast of the grounds of the fishermen. A boat picked me up, exhausted from fatigue, and now that the danger was removed, speechless from the memory of its horror. Those who drew me on board were my old mates and daily companions, but they knew me no more than they would have known a traveller from Spiritland. My hair, which had been raven black the day before, was white as you see it now. They say, too, was the whole expression of my enchantress, which changed. I told them my story. They did not believe it. I tell it to you now, and I can scarcely expect you to put more faith in it than did the merry fishermen of Lofoden. And that was the story. Hope you guys all enjoyed it just as much as I did. So, now I can put the heavy book aside. Oh, my arms feel like noodles. Oh my gosh. Whew. I really enjoy reading with books, but this is probably one of the heaviest books that I own, aside from the Count of Monte Cristo and the one that I have on my shelf, which is just as big as this one. How many pages do you have? I did not look at that yesterday when I bought you. 1,000, a little over 1,000, that means a lot of stories in here that we can continue narrating in the future. How does that sound? Enough fun. Enough fun for the future. I enjoyed it indeed. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Janine, welcome to the stream. I'm really glad you enjoyed the story. Gamma, yeah, the story was awesome, and you got quite the workout. I don't sport a lot, so it's yeah, it's quite a good thing to do. Go to the sports school? No, I lift heavy books. It's not that I don't do anything. I do practice ballet every week. So I do keep moving in some ways. Not like I'm a shut in, stay at home. it is good movement. Yes, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I can't wait to hear the next story. If any of you have recommendations or want to hear a story from another story from Poe or from Lovecraft, let me know. Do you want to see the other book, by the way? Because I've now shown off this beautiful thing. I'm not sure if I... The insides? Can you guys see that? Da-da-da-da. It has a moon on the inside. Really, when I read the first books, at least the first book, I was like, oh, I need that. Yeah, look at the artwork. I always get excited about books, so now you guys just have to see me showing off my newest babies in the collection. Wait, you know what? Nobody asked, but I am going to grab the other book. Lovecraft, where are you? Yeah. So this is the other book from the same collection. It has a bit of a galaxy universe theme with planets on it. The side, which is also very similar, and the back. So this is a lot more purple and blue, while Poe's book is a lot more with red colors. But they both have the silver side. And I don't see a lot of books do that nowadays, so whenever I see a book that has things printed on the side, it's like, you're coming home with me. And just like Poe, it has artworks on the inside. It's really cool. I adore this. It's so freaking pretty. These are very scary monsters in the inside, while Poe has a moon with mist and clouds. So that's a whole different thing. I believe Lovecraft is a little thicker than Poe. It is. How many pages are you? You're thicker! Almost 1100 pages. Just think about it, I'm also getting Shakespeare from this series. There's gonna be 3 of this big on my shelf. No, I'm not swearing. Let's see. Don't scratch the body paint. Don't do that. Yeah, for the people who like to see, I have body paint. For the costume, since it's Nami, I have a fake tattoo. It's not real, it's body paint. Should not scratch that for it, because otherwise I'll mess it up. Let's see. If the book gets too heavy, maybe a Kindle version of the book, which will be less heavy. I know, I understand, and I have had a tablet in the past, and I do have, what's it called? Storytel on my phone, which also has, besides audiobooks, normal books, so you can read and listen to it at the same time. But I prefer holding an actual book because I like the smell better and I enjoy holding something big in my hands instead of a tablet or a digital thing, because otherwise you get a lot more blue light into your face. Not that this is helping, because I have my laptop in front of me right now while I'm streaming, so But yeah, I always prefer a good book over a digital version, unless I can put on the audiobook while I'm reading and put my phone on the other side of the room or on the table. Then I'll do that. But that's of course not possible on stream. But thank you for trying to help, but it's my decision that I am suffering, because I enjoy having the book in my hands, even though it's heavy. Lovecraft is the best. Yeah, he writes a whole lot of cool stories. I should probably read more of them. So that's kind of also the reason why I got the complete edition. So I have as many stories as possible in one book. And as dumb as this is going to sound, it says the complete edition, but there were stories that I suggested yesterday on Twitter that turned out not to be in the book. So I don't know if there's a part 2 of the complete edition, or if there is more that I can get, because there were some ocean stories that were just not in the book. I don't know what's up with that. You can't call it a complete edition if it doesn't have everything, but you know. Gamma, yeah, and wow, the art looks amazing. Right? I don't know who did the art, it's probably somewhere credited in here. But it's because of the art that I want to get the other books from this series as well. The other completed collections, because it's so freaking pretty and aesthetically pleasing, because you don't see a lot of books that have a art like this, or even a textured side, because it has little bumps here, if you could see that. It has little bumps like old books have, and I am a sucker for that. That's why I love the old classic books so much, because they all have something like that, and it's so pretty. Wow, that book is huge. Yeah, they're all huge. Oh, they are. Jasmine, do you have the shadow over Innismouth? Is that from Lovecraft? Let's see. Do I have... Yeah. I do have the shadow. It's 807. Got it. There it is. Let's see, how many pages are you? Ooh, you're a long story. Okay. If I'm streaming this is gonna be a very long stream. This is gonna take me at least 2 hours to narrate this, I think. Thank you for the story suggestion. That sounds like a lot of fun. Okay. Haven't had a super long story in a while. I saved it. The thing, what's it called? The lace is in place. That rhymes. We're doing that next stream. Unless I feel like continuing the Rainbow Factory instead, but we'll see what I'm feeling like next time. But I have it saved for the next time I'm grabbing one of the books and going cosplay. Let's see. Where can you buy these books? I bought them in my local bookstore. I don't want to say a local book because I did go into the city to get these. Isn't it? I'm going to look it up. I think the store is called Leap. Okay, so the bookstore that I bought it at is called Vos en van de Leer. It's a Dutch shop that sells all kinds of books. Yeah, it's a Dutch shop. I can type it out. I'm grabbing the mouse again, but that's from my computer, and I'm sign into chat. Then I am going back to YouTube. Vos en van der Leer. Yes, Vos en van der Leer. That's what the shop is called that I bought it at. And they also sell a whole other bunch of other classics. Then again, I wouldn't be surprised if American Book Center had these books as well. I buy a lot of books there as well on conventions. I recently got the first book of The Witcher there. So that's a book that I'm bringing with me on vacation. I heard a lot of good things about it. So that's also my plan to read list. But I hope that this was some form of help. I don't know if you're from the Netherlands, but if you look up the collection or the complete fiction of H.P. Lovecraft or Edgar Allan Poe, I'm sure that you will get this book on your page of Google that you can buy it at some store. Let's see. I get the physical books. It's the best. I just mentioned it since the book is huge. Yeah. It is. It makes it a little difficult to hold. And sometimes because of that, certain books I can't read for a longer amount of time. Because of that, I also kind of put the Count of Monte Cristo aside because it is thicker than this book, than H.P. Lovecraft. It's, I think, 1,200 pages. You'd be surprised, but if you grab the pages, they're just as thin as the pages from the Bible. So I don't know how else you describe the texture of the paper, but I always fascinated if I open up a Bible that the pages are so enormously thin and that people don't rip it. And that's the same with the Count of Monte Cristo. If I have to carefully put all these pages aside because otherwise you're going to rip because they made it a lot thinner to make the book not as super thick and heavy. Otherwise the book is going to be this thick and it's now this thick. Yeah. I love that story. Oh, that's good to hear. Then I can save that one for another time. William, sometimes I'd like to hear you with the Pit and the Pendulum from... The Pit and the Pendulum. Oh, wait, that's a Poe story. I know that one. I'm smart. Yeah. I'm sure it's in here. City in the Sea. Oh, that would have been great for today as well. That's poetry. This is fiction. Emma's found in a bottle. That also would have been great with seaside stories. The Black Cat. That's also a great story. The Pit and the Pendulum. Where are you? The Masque of the Red Death. I did do it. Oh, it comes right after the Masque of the Red Death. I did narrate that one earlier on my channel. Before I had this book, you know. Pit and the Pendulum. 443. The Red Death, the Pit and the Pendulum. Got it. Alright, then we have 2 stories. Parry Quest saved. How does that sound? Pit and the Pendulum. I hope the rest of your day has gone good as well. Yeah, hoor, replies in Dutch. Pardon. Oh, yeah, my day has been swell. I have mainly been in cosplay, which I really enjoy, especially because this cosplay has is now really special to me all of a sudden. Fun story, you guys have probably seen what has been going on Twitter, because I've been trying to post some updates as well from what it's like with cosplay and such. For the people who want to see what I'm working on more, you can absolutely follow me on Instagram. I think the links to that are also on my Twitter. If not, I will post it again in the chats for those who like it. But yeah, I've been filming cringy TikToks, which I love doing. As stupid as that is to do, I think it's very enjoyable. My room is still a mess. The whole setup is still standing right there. I have a can of Got to Be Glued standing here. Yeah. Eyelashes. Props that are still need to be fixed. For Star Guardian cosplay. There's absolutely every. It's great that you guys can't see my bed right now, because it's currently filled with whatever and whatnot. I've been working on a lot of different stuff lately. Aside from cosplay, also got an embroidery machine a while ago, so that thing has been running almost every day. Used it to do some detailing on this costume as well. I mean, you can also only see the straps right now. So, oof. I'm gonna stand so you guys can see it. Ta-da! That's the dress. It's, I'd say I'm pretty proud of it. Now you can't see it, but there are also embroidery along the edge of the hem, which looks a lot like this. Can I focus? Focus. These were the test embroidery designs, which are all based on Nami from One Piece. So there's like a berry, orange, her tattoo, a log post. So it makes it a little bit more personal and like her. Let's see. People. I enjoyed the story. I'm glad to hear that. I recognize this. Dordrecht, right? Yes. Dordrecht. It's. I bought it in the binnenstad. So we have multiple locations in Dordrecht. You need to go to the one that's in the city, not the one that's in Stadspolders. That's the small one. I go there quite a bit too, but they don't have a lot of the classic stories. They focus a lot more on the normal books and books for children. They don't have a lot of English books. So you need to go to the big store in the city in Dordrecht. Dutch-Swedish gal, friend of MC. And Megan Danootje. Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, that's fun. I have Dutchies in the chat. Also, I don't have to feel bad for recommending people a bookstore that they can't go to. That's great. Last time I was there, they still had the Edgar Allan Poe edition and Shakespeare. If I'm correct. So definitely go and check it out. They have a lot more cool books. They even got a few manga last time I was there. Which is surprising because I don't see a lot of bookstores selling manga nowadays. Well, they do it a lot more, but only like the really big ones, like in Rotterdam. You see it a lot more there than in the smaller towns or cities. So that's also kind of cool. Been to Dordrecht once, just recognized from a friend that mentioned it before. But thank you, miss. You're welcome. I hope you can pick up the books as well. They're really cool and super pretty. They also have a lot of other cool books there. So, glad I've been of help. So, yeah. That's the cool books. So, also, thanks everyone for the recommendations. I am gonna see if I can fit a costume with the books. Because I've been really enjoying it whenever I do a narration with a physical book to get into cosplay, because that's a whole lot more fun than to just sit here normally, because you guys get to see and look at something cool as well. And I don't think a lot of narrators or creepypasta horror-nators do this, aside from VTubing, because I've started doing that as well, of course, too. I'll probably do another stream of that soon too. Not anytime soon. I mean, I'm going to go to France in 3 weeks. Next weekend, I'm going to leave for France and be probably gone for 3 weeks. So after that, I'm gonna be streaming again. Hopefully a little bit more often. Now I don't have to work with deadlines of costumes. Like this one, I had to finish really, really quickly. So the people who don't know this, I am gonna sit a little nicer, yes. I got invited to come to the convention from MCon. The picture from the thumbnail is actually from my act that I did there, from my cosplay act. And I was asked if I could join a competition if they did so. Now, I didn't know that the competition was going to be at that convention that they were going to be doing which is very logical if you think about it. But I thought, they probably would be planning it for next year, so they have enough time to do up some information and choose people that they want to invite as their judges, etc., etc. So here I've said yes, and suddenly they announce, hey, we're gonna do this contest. So I've already said yes, because, it's fun and I enjoy doing contests with my cosplays. I'm like, okay, I now have 3 weeks to make a costume. We're doing this. I made this costume under 3 weeks. Don't ask me how it is that I did it. I am still flabbergasted by it too. And I told that to the judges as well. But some miraculous reason, I was able to place third with this costume. And the finishing I mostly put my time into, aside from the embroidery, which I really enjoy doing now, to make sure that everything just looks good. There were a few things that I would have added if I had more time, like small pockets, probably the line that's here on the bust that stops here, I probably would have exceeded it there. A couple of things that I would have added or changed if I had more time to work on this. But on the other hand, it is pretty good, and I'm happy that's finished, because the plan was to have this dress finished before VNCon. VNCon is a convention that is placed around a swimming pool, so it's just swimming pool fun and pictures that you can take there, which is super cool. And this, I thought, would be the perfect costume to make there. It's cool, especially for the summer. I could wear a swim suit or a bikini underneath it and no one would notice, so if I'm tired of the dress I could just slip it out and wear the bikini for the rest of the day, which is great. So yeah, that. But yeah. And also a fun fact about this, I bought all of the fabrics for this dress last year on my vacation in France with my dad, an absolute champ, a king who drove an hour with me to this gigantic fabric shop, because we heard the day previous, like, yeah, there's a fabric shop here. Where? We're going. Oh great, I'm having a day with my daughter, and I'm sitting here like, fabrics. Best thing ever. Got the fabrics that I needed to make this dress, and it was just about enough. If I had made a miscut somewhere, I probably would have not been able to make it. So I'm always scared to cut my fabrics. I'll be very honest with that. If you cut it incorrectly with the stretch, and you have to buy new ones, or you don't know where to buy it, it's so bad. Because some online shops only allow you to buy not less than a meter or a yard. And that makes it so sad if you only need a little bit. So that's definitely a plan I'm going to be doing this year as well. I have no idea what kind of fabrics I'll be looking for. Maybe look for foil type of fabrics, because I can't seem to find any of good quality here. There were foil fabrics at my local shop a while ago, but they got sold out so quickly. Crazy. I think a lot of people thought that's perfect for a Wings Club cosplay, and I absolutely agree with them because that was also my first thought when I saw the fabrics. And I now need them for an upgrade for my Star Guardian cosplay. I don't know, it's very pretty because either you have a bit of a disco look on it because it's this really tiny bubbles with a black background, so it's nice. Either it's a full color that shines, or you have a bit of a crystal effect that shimmers, which is that. Hey, Outcast, how are you doing? Glad to have you here. Kai, what is T8X? Pool? Pool. Oh, I don't know what the first one is, but yeah, there is a pool convention. Like you can see cosplay. There's going to be a convention that's where they hired. I don't want to say that. Rented a pool for it, so you can take pictures in cosplay near water or inside of the pool, which is super fun. But yeah, like that. Outcast, good. By the way, you look wonderful. Thank you. I work really hard to make my costumes look good. So a big chance I'm bringing this costume with me on my vacation as well to make a couple of pictures in the Mother Nature. So yeah, for those who do follow me on Instagram, can see a couple more pictures from Nami coming up in the next couple of weeks. No problem. CoastCon Mississippi has that too. Oh, that's cool. That is cool. I didn't know there were more conventions like that. It is such an amazing con. Oh, you've been there? How's it like? I haven't been to any conventions outside of the Netherlands yet, but I have been dying to do so. Kind of sad that I couldn't go to Dokumi this weekend. But then again, it would have been an absolute hassle to go this weekend and then go on a vacation next weekend and still have to go through the cleanup while also having to pack. So I was like, yeah, let's not do that struggle. But yeah, that's also a convention that's going on this weekend. It's such an amazing con. Okay. And I totally agree. You look gorgeous. Thank you. Hot extreme sun allergy. Oof. Yeah. It be like that. I too have sun allergies, so whenever I go on a vacation and make pictures there in cosplay, I make sure that it's one of the first couple of days before my body starts to be covered up by red spots, and you know what it looks like if you have sun allergies. It's terrible. I try to put sunscreen on it, but it doesn't always work. So I usually sit in the shade, like Draculaura, being like, I want to go outside and be, get a tan. But that's not working for me. I don't know. I never had sun allergies before, but right after the pandemic, it came up, and I'm like, why? So yeah, that's a thing that I too struggle with. So I absolutely get you. It was converted 38. Whoa, Celsius? Damn, you'd be dying in that heat. But it'd be amazing. Yeah, I mean, if you could sit in the pool in the cool water, I it would be doable, I think, with that amount of degrees. Oh, damn, that'd be hot. I mean, I thought that the Anime Con a couple of weeks ago was already like bloody hot. Because that convention barely has air conditioning. It doesn't exactly work, so they put fans everywhere. And it was also around 30 degrees. And now think about it, that's an inside convention that a lot of people are in. And it gets hot because of the amount of people. And of course you have the poor people who are... who have to do the competition, who are in big costumes and yeah, sweating a lot more. I felt so bad for some of my friends who were competing those days because of how big their costumes were. But I'm glad that the moment they came and walked out of that room, it was just casual clothing, like, good for you, please take it off, your costume, because otherwise you're gonna die and faint from the heat. I've seen that happen, by the way, at conventions, that people just go, and you're too late to catch them, or their friend group is just like, oop, and they have to have them sit down on a chair, or it happens. I don't enjoy it when it does, but it does. It happened to a friend of mine as well last year. So if you go to a convention, stay hydrated and make sure that you have something of a fan with you. Electronic of one by hand, because it can get really hot during the summer. I don't know why convention season is even a thing in the summer. It's a really bad idea. In my opinion, of course. Lol, the sun was like a time to suffer. Yeah! Oh, Lord. It'd be like that. Oh... Even with Dutch Comic Con at like 32 degrees. When you were inside, it was doable because there was air conditioning. The moment you walk outside, it's like you walk into a wall of heat. Like, it's not fun at all. Like, then I'm grateful that certain conventions do have air conditioning, but not all. I've had it with the whole life already, and my skin is also just not used to even the Dutch weather sometimes. Yeah, Dutch weather do be weird sometimes. Like, it'd be sunny one moment and it's raining the other. Then again, I was really happy with the rain yesterday, because it's been so extremely sunny the last couple of days. Not gonna lie. The moment I was able to grab my umbrella, I was like, yeah, you know what, this isn't half as bad. Could be worse. Smell of rain is really nice. That's some opinion of me. Exactly the reason I go to Elfia the winter. Yeah. Oh man. But I felt bad for people who went to Elfia the last time. It was raining so badly. I ended up noping out because of it. I mean, I love Elfia and all the other festivals. I went to Allan this time. Also very fun. It's more or less Keltfest, but smaller, in Dordrecht. So I really enjoyed it. Finally, we have a new Keltfest because that one hasn't really happened in a couple of years. It first moved from Dordrecht to, I think, Amsterdam, but I'm not sure because I didn't want that to happen again. And then they were like, oh, you know what? We do a new festival. And it was great. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, Lost Elfia was more or less a water ballet. I do hope that the next round is going to be a little bit more sunnier, but not die of the heat. Just learned that I usually faint at summer conventions. Happened 40 times last 6 years. Damn, that's a lot. Oh, good thing that you know. Then your friends can also play into that situation if it happens and make sure that they catch you if you do happen to fall. Outcast, I can handle the heat, but the last few days have not been fun. Yeah. You had rain? Jealous. Yeah, but because of rain, I didn't go to Elfia. Oh, or you mean yesterday? And be jealous. I enjoyed it. It was, I think, only an hour and a half. But I needed to go outside to buy embroidery thread. And it suddenly started raining. I was like, you know what? This is actually kind of nice. And I got some really cool embroidery thread from the store. So, this may not seem like much, but especially if you don't know what I'm holding. But this is neon thread, which glows under blacklight. So if you're at a rave, this will genuinely and absolutely light up under the blacklight. This, however, is Halloween thread by the same maker, by the same brand, and glows up in the dark. And because I've been keeping it in the dark, it isn't going to glow, I think. So if I'm now going to turn off the lights, it's not going to do anything because it isn't charged by sunlight. But it is really cool. It's been some of the most expensive thread that I've ever bought. And an insult to my wallet. Well, insult, how do you say that? Yeah. It's 100 meters and it's almost 10 euros, while an actual one of these, which is 200 meters, is give or take 4 euros. So that's like 4 times the price of an actual. Yeah. It's just yeah. But you know, my dumb ass thinks about starting a project with one of these. You know why? Because I thought it was a good idea, and I want everything to look perfect. And I thought, you know what we're gonna do this year? Make my Journey cosplay look a little better, and do everything with embroidery instead of cutting it by hand and then sewing it on. And because some of the parts of the cape, or actually the scarf, light up, I thought, you know what we need? Glow-in-the-dark thread. Cheers! Worst idea of my life, but it's very pretty. I will assure you, this was a good idea. Not for my wallet, but I'm sure it will look really nice. Let's see. The rain doesn't bother me anymore. Nah, it kind of depends how strong the rain is. I mean, if it's storming and you're being blown by one side to the other side of the road while it's raining, then it does bother me, or if I forgot my umbrella, but let's see. Outcast, me who only got rain yesterday. Today it's just been 69 degrees, luckily. I don't know how much that is in Celsius, but I think that is warm, but not super warm. Janine, I'm usually alone at cons, don't want to give others problems by me being loved by someone most deem bad. Don't like the person either. Hmm? Why is that? But seeing Megan on DCC was the best. Megan, was that one of the actors who came this year? I haven't really seen or met up with the actors that were here because I heard that you had to buy something of a certain price in order to meet up with them or get a handshake. I thought it was kind of sad that you couldn't just go and talk to them like you do in the cosplay village or with the other cosplayers, like the judges. You just can go up, stand in line, say hi, get a picture, talk to them a little bit, and then leave. I thought that was a little odd. But otherwise, I would have probably met or went to say hi to the actress who played Lucifer in The Sandman because she was present. I think she's really cool. I think her acting is really well done. I hope we are going to get another season of that. Really enjoy that show. Sucker punching a hole in your wallet. Hey lady, when you want to get stuff sometimes. Oh yeah. It do be like that because if you want something that's good quality or something that's a little bit more or special, then you do have to buy extra. Not always. But sometimes it do be like that. And just to teach other people or have them be aware of that, embroidery is super expensive. Not everyone always thinks that because if you buy a patch at your local shop, it doesn't seem too expensive. But if it's done by your, your local cosplayer who has one and sells them, I might do commissions too in the future, by the way. Then they might get expensive because you need to buy new threads, new colors, want something done special, do that too. Make the patterns for it online because I have special programs. They don't, since I have the basic program, it doesn't always work 100%, so I have to tweak everything and make sure everything looks good. So that takes a while. Aside from then looking up what colors do I need, do I own them? No. Shop for them, then come home, cry because I forgot one and go back. Yeah. I mean, the sewing machine shop where I always go for my thread, absolutely adores me now. There's that. Like, hey, you! More, back for more? Absolutely. Yeah. Beautiful machine. Very thankful. Made some really nice things with it. Oh, cool. Showing off the progress. Buying more shit. Yep. Let's see. Pumpkin Lady, you know what we need to see is more glow in the dark me. Seeing you glow in the dark, is that a glow Is that a glow bug? I love glow bugs! Or bugs in general. I used to have a mantis, so yeah, I do love bugs. I mean, if I have leftover thread, I could definitely make some really small glow bug patches, though. That'd be really cute now, think about it. We shall see. Eliza. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I know her. My friends don't like her either. She's a regular at the what's it called? A special edition. So she comes there a lot. So my friends and I end up seeing her a lot more often. And yeah, we don't really speak with her anymore after everything that happened. So I don't talk a lot of drama, but yeah, I understand. Just stalks me all day. Oh, that's bad. Sorry to hear that. Can't you? I mean, on social media? Because then you can just block her from all platforms. I do that too with the people, or yeah, general people I don't like. That's why the button exists. It's very easy. And if she does tend to stalk you on conventions, on the other hand, try your best and enter someone else's group, or say like, hey, I need help, this person is bugging me or following me around, or go to one of the people from the organization itself, see if they can help, because it's not really an okay thing if someone starts following you around the convention. I had that happen to me, which was Last Heroes Made in Asia, when a Todoroki cosplayer suddenly started following my friends and I around. I don't know who he was, but he started to exclaim to everyone, like, yeah, we're friends. We're totally friends. I'm like, who the fuck is you? Who are you? We're not friends. And he started saying that to my other cosplay mutuals, to some of the bigger cosplayers that I know and sometimes talk to, and like, oh, you made a new friend? I'm like, I don't know who he is. I don't know who he is. He's been following us around all day. He's not leaving. Yeah. And that ended up just resolving the problem on its own by the end of the day, when we had to part ways, and it was like, good, now we can. You go that way, we go this way, and after that we never saw the man again, because if that did happen a second time at the convention, I probably would have said something about it. Now, I don't mind other cosplayers just joining the group, as long as I do know them, or them asking nicely. Being like, hey, I'm alone at the convention, can I join your group? Would that be okay? Or, hey, so and so is, well, if you're in trouble, I would absolutely help you, because then I will absolutely just adopt you like my child, and you can just be with my group for the rest of the day or a few hours, whatever you please. That I don't have a problem with, but if suddenly another cosplayer just joins the group that I don't know, that I get a very bad gut feeling about, and suddenly starts telling everybody else that I know that we're friends, and I'm like, who is she? That's not okay. I do wish to get to know another person, but always ask if you want to join and tag along. That is something I find very important. Glow in the dark pumpkin lady patches. Hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could do that. I could start selling pumpkin patches. Definitely. I have made a really big patch of pumpkin queen for myself. That's on the back of my jacket. So who knows? Maybe I might. She stalks me there. She acts like she's my bestie. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of behavior that I was talking about just now. People who, yeah, I feel always very uncomfortable when people don't do that. When people do that, because it's not really okay to do, and especially because it's her. Then I'm like, yeah, definitely try to ask if you can join someone else's group that you know, or tag along with another friend group, because it's if you're walking alone, you're a lot less strong than if you're with a group of people. I mean, if she's bothering you and you need help and I'm there, definitely come to me next time. Then you can just tag along with my group if you need to. So I don't really mind that. Cause I'd be wilding out here. Talk about issues. Yeah, there's a lot of drama in the cosplay community. It's really weird sometimes. Especially if you watch some of the weird stuff that gets uploaded on TikTok with stories. It can get a lot. And I don't know how some of the dramas even start, because it takes zero money to be a good person. And there's no reason for someone to shit talk another person. And of course, I'm not really saying anything specific about that certain cosplayer or anything bad, but yeah, I am not actively trying to shit talk others just because I don't like them. I know there are a couple that I also don't like from experience, because they were very mean to me or my friends. That has happened, absolutely. But I always try and do my best to just keep them at the distance, be like, okay, you don't like me, I don't like you. That's fine, respect that. Then we're not going to sit in each other's hair and ignore each other for how long it's going to take to resolve this. And if we can't talk, unless we can't talk it out. If it is able to talk about it, then that's even better. Like adults. Because that's what you should do. Thank you, miss. No problem. No problem, sweetie. Just, if you're in trouble, just let me know. Then you can tag along. I'm not that difficult. But yeah, since narration and everything is done, and we're more getting into cosplay drama, which was not really expected to do of this video, I think it is a good time to stop the stream and take a bit of a break as well. So thank you everyone for joining. It's very sweet that you all came to listen to me narrate and talk books and cosplay again. It's been super fun. Thank you. It's been... Whew, I've been streaming for 2 hours now. Alright. Have a great weekend, everyone.